Geopolitically, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting, say they high, say they simple pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock that twirl somewhere orbiting. Theories disproportionate, the truth distorted quick. With a forceful grip, they force a misinfo that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature, that mean extorted it. They forging it, if news anchors informants who informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this, we port ships important gifts, of course it is. But extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks we ignoring, which informant this, informant this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers actors say they high, say they simple pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in a field that's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? In a world. So yeah, I was talking to Kai. I went and showed her the thumbnail, and she was like, you messed up. And I saw Mr. Anderson also said this, but the thumbnail should have been about Photon, Fauxton. What you gonna do? What's up, Familiar? Thanks for kicking it. I know I've been streaming kind of late. I mean, it's 11 EST, but I've just been doing a lot throughout the day. And then trying to put some of this stuff together. We should get everything rock and roll midweek next week, where we're gonna have consistent times and shows and all that. I do want to go ahead and tell you guys about something new I just set up on the channel. So there are now memberships on the channel. If you go to the description, there is a little link to become a member. It's called Miswits. So you can become a Miswit. I'm gonna drop it in the link. I'm gonna drop it in the chat. And then each level comes with little perks. You know how it be. So yeah, cool. If you want to support the channel, that's one way you can do it. I think we get 70% of that. I don't really know why the link's not working though. So maybe you can't do it. You know how the grabblers do. But anyway, what's up, fam? The earth is so round it looks flat. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna cover the photon today. Hopefully everything sounds good. Sounds good in my headphones. I'm going ahead and kind of getting some of this more technical stuff out. We're gonna really venture out. We ventured out a little bit yesterday. Talked about grounding. I think most people have kind of heard of that, but I showed you guys the
the blood before and after you ground. And yeah, it seems like something people should integrate. I'm really salty right now about the fact that the memberships are being sketchy. Let me see if this one works. All right, now maybe they changed it. So I'm gonna drop the new one. See if this link works for you guys. Anyway. So anyway, that's cool. It's got a bunch of, you can read what comes with them. We'll be doing little like special shows, special releases of videos, member only live streams. We may do occasional member only chat. I like to keep things free. You know how it be. Spicy Sarah, what's up? I saw Made by Jim Bob's in here. I don't know why you're not a mod, but I got you. Just a second. You are a mod. Mr. Anderson, Vader Bear. Bunch of legends in the chat. What is a photon? That's a pretty great question. We're going to get into it. Share screen, Chrome tab. Here we go. So there you go. You can you got different levels. I guess it changes color every month. I don't know anything about this, never done this, but it would be greatly appreciated if you become a member, help our brother out so we can get a little stability. Shout out to Awesome Austin's in the chat. What's up, bro? What's up, Cuddy? My boy Black Flow, what's up? What's up? I see Twits in the chat. I know a guy who only eats photons. That's weird. What did you have in the field on any music platforms? No, I don't. Bro, I recorded that on some gaming headphones, like chilling on my front porch. But yeah, I've had a lot of people ask me to. I may, but anyway, I think I may re-record it with an actual mic and see how it goes down. Maybe create a lyric video or a music video where he keeps asking for it. I think I'll probably perform it at Flattoberfest. A few new songs. You can go to flatearthfestivals.com if you want to go kick it. All right, let's do it. Let's get into the pseudoscience. So I covered this some in my presentation. I don't want it to be too technical and too boring or whatever, but I'm gonna pull the presentation up just to kind of refresh people on what they claim a photon is. If you don't know, they claim it's a fundamental particle of light, a quanta of light, a physical particle, a fundamental indivisible physical particle of light, a discrete chunk of information, as some people say. I hope you see my stand-up comedy. I'll have to check it out. Send it to me or something. Send it to me or something, brother. All right, we got the presentation pulled up. Share screen. All right. Come on down to the photon. So we're gonna get right into it. I think this is some gravy, bro. You guys stick with me, and you will not regret it. We're gonna get right into it. Thank you for the $20 super chat, Tim. Much love, brother. Greatly appreciated. You got a Globe Earth sticker because it is a pair. Did you get my meme? You'd have to be significantly more specific than that, my man. Photon. All right. A photon is defined as a particle representing a quantum of light or other electromagnetic radiation. A photon carries energy proportional to the radiation frequency. It is often described as an electric field that oscillates with the corresponding magnetic field that oscillates. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Another $20 super chat from Macy. Thank you very much. Much love. It's greatly appreciated. You the best. And I'll try and read off any new members that sign up during the chat. Hopefully some of you guys can pop over. There's different levels to it, but so I can see if the little stars pop up when you type. I think you're supposed to have a little star. But anyway, Yeah, that's gonna help a lot because that'll kinda keep the, a little stability. I just wiped away the photons from my eyes for the day. I'm glad that you were safe, man. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Gotta watch out for those crazy spirit bombs. Wait, I do wanna just show you this just to troll a little bit. We're just kinda chilling, letting some people get in here. It's been 10 minutes. Everybody kick back, relax. Watch out for the photons. They're behind me. They're coming at your screen right now. You need to chill out. I meant to change the color of the background. Alright, let's check this out. Every time I hear someone say that, light is a photon, this is what I think about. Super funny. It's just pseudoscience, obviously. Needed for relativity, needed for the spinning globe Earth. Alright, share screen. This is what I think about every time someone tells me something about the spirit bomb. I mean the, photon. Your little cartoon pseudoscience magical ball of energy and light. I mean, what's different in what you call photon and this guy right here? Like, literally nothing. Except for one's more entertaining. Alright, let's get into it. I think people said they wanted it to be like more like this. Alright, it's claimed that a photon can interact with charged particles and give up part of its energy or even all of it, and then it disappears. Hoo, crazy. Thank you for the 99 cents super sticker. Brother, my man Chris, thank you very much. Alright. A photon has never been directly observed, of course. Claiming light is a photon and therefore the human eye has seen a photon is a textbook begging the question fallacy, which you will actually hear people say that, of course. Freaking clown world. It is claimed that a photon can spontaneously degenerate into a particle with mass and its antiparticle in a process known as pair production. We got flat earthers not only defending the photon, going around and bashing people because they don't believe in the photon. This is the mainstream claim of a photon. And when you claim the photon, you have to reify the electron. So you claim the photon, you claim the electron. And this is the stuff that comes with, it's not as simple as just saying light is a discrete chunk of information. It's a quanta of light. It's a physical particle. You don't just get to say that. It comes with other claims based on what we know light does. Okay? Covering the basics so we can get into the gravy. It is claimed that in this process, the energy of the photon is completely transformed, kind of like Goku that I showed you, into the mass of the two particles. For example, a photon can turn into an electron and an anti-electron. Wow. It's claimed that a photon is produced whenever an electron in a higher than normal orbit, sound familiar? Little physical spherical balls that orbit with no actual tangible evidence, but we use quantification. Then we bring the quantification or the math over here and say, look, this proves what I can't prove because my math works out. In a higher than normal orbit, falls back to its normal orbit. During the fall from high energy to normal energy, the electron emits a photon or a packet of energy. Wow. It's also claimed that a photon can spontaneously degenerate into a particle with mass and its antiparticle in a process known as pair production. We just read that typo. All alleged evidence for the photon is built upon textbook reifications. One of the primary motivations for this reification is the theory of relativity. If everything is relative, then there must be an absolute frame of reference for everything to be relative to. Therefore, light must physically travel from point A to point B and must have a constant speed. You claim everything is relative, you got to have some standard of comparison. He chose light. Of course, there is no one-way speed of light. Okay, and so I covered this right here where special relativity attributed a constant speed to light and claims the speed of light is 300,000 kilometers a second or 186,000 miles a second. Einstein postulated this claim in an attempt to explain the results of the Michelson-Morley experiment, which we will cover later, and we already did. There's no actual experiment of the one-way speed or measurement of the one-way speed of light, rather an average of a two-way speed. They just shoot light at a mirror and they try to get an average. They presuppose it traveled there and back. This convention presupposes that light travels from point to point and reifies the theory of relativity. This assumption violates the law of conservation of energy in numerous observations. For example, luminal interactions with water, glass, etc., as the light cannot slow down and speed back up, as there's no external introduction of energy. Now, let's move over here. Hey, shout out to Dave. My boy became a mitzvah level 1. Yeah, okay, so we get to see when people become members. That's what I'm talking about. Shout out to Dave. Thank you for becoming a member, brother. All right, so we're going to come over here and we're going to look at what I just now detailed in that slide. Okay. Very simple concept. You can do this at your house. You can debunk the photon at your house. Okay. How dare you? Let me go ahead and put my little for educational purposes up. All right. So when you shoot a light through glass, right now, imagine that it's a photon. Okay. We don't need to hear him. I just want you to watch. Just watch this laser go through this glass. Oh, good thing we're not just sitting here waiting on this guy, man. My goodness. This will work. Who cares? So when we shoot this light through the glass, eventually, dude, all I need you to shoot a laser through the glass, man. It's just laughable at this point. Do you ever actually shoot the laser? I'm being trolled right now. Oh my gosh, whatever. Who cares? Shout out to Question and Answers Level 2. Check them out. Thank you for becoming a member, my brother. No audio on the video. Yeah, I know. All right. Anyway, I don't know why this goober won't just shoot the laser through the glass. I don't know why that's so complicated. Here, I know what we'll do. We'll do this. All right, this will work. Sorry about this. But anyway, the point is that if light's a physical particle called a photon traveling from point A to point B, then how does it do this? Share screen. Unmute. No, this is gonna. All right. How does the physical photon do this? Maybe you guys can enlighten me.
Demonstrating optical phenomena in the classroom can be difficult. The trouble is, light beams are invisible. The normal scattering agents such as chalk dust are messy and can cause other problems in the classroom. The laser viewing tank allows students to see and manipulate light beams in a lab group setting. These tanks act as student workstations, so you can set up a bunch with little time or fuss. Next, I'm going to aim the laser down.
Okay. So we just shot this light through glass. Okay. Now, if it's a physical particle traveling from point A to point B, obviously it just transcends this glass, goes through it. Okay. But it's not matter, right? It's energy and it can do all this magic stuff. It's basically a god. So in modern science, the photon is a god. You know how Yah says he's light? Well, they say light is God. But anyway, I digress. So this is slowing down by roughly 30%. Now, of course, Light doesn't have a speed in the sense of distance over time because it doesn't physically travel from point A to point B. We have a rate of induction, so we quantify how quickly we see it light up, meaning we quantify, we count, we measure how quickly we see the light up. Simple enough, right? So that's what I'm saying when I say we simply quantify the rate of perception of illumination. Okay, anyway. So that rate slows down by 30%. They claim it's physically
to see
traveling.
refraction in action. Look how the direction of the beam changes when it enters the water. Set the tank at the edge of the table and aim the beam upward to see refraction again.
Okay, so anyway, the point is, let's look at this. It's pretty cool. Wow.
When a source of white light,
it's a little photon just bouncing around everywhere. Look at these photons bouncing around.
When a source of white light is sent through the tank, the light appears blue from the side.
So this is slowing down when it leaves the glass.
Because the short blue wavelengths are the light. When a source of
when it
white
leaves the
light
glass,
is
it would
sent
have to
through the
speed
tank,
back up. Okay. So it would reach the conservation of momentum. Now, what they say, because there's no extra energy given to it. So if it slows down, because it's claiming that they claim it physically travels, it's a little particle that travels, right? If it slows down and leaves the glass and speeds back up, how does it speed back up? Without any more energy being given to it, right? Because there's a conservation of energy. So it maintains the amount of energy. It can't just magically get more energy if there's no extra energy added. So that violates the conservation of energy. Now, what do they say? They say you can look at glass like it's got these little roads in it. It just tons of little roads, chaotic road system. And the photon has to travel through all these roads to get through the glass. So it never slows down. It just has a longer path that it travels. That's a very cool story. Very, very cool story. Okay. So now you can do this with water as well, right? Now, from the etheric framework, light's just the background that's already there. So when you add glass, you added an additional medium that alters how you perceive it because you're having to look at it through another layer of a medium. So it changes how you see it. You're having to look through more impedance, more optical impedance, not physical impedance. It's optical impedance, right? Is that making sense? Same thing with the water. You're looking through an additional medium called the water to see the light that is the other background medium. Okay, so that's why it changes how it looks. Very simple stuff, right? Not particularly complicated. I don't really know why it ever would be considered as such. Okay, moving on. There are multiple observations that seemingly falsify the claim of maximum speed of light, such as it's been demonstrated that ultra-low frequency voltage signals in coaxial cables with a length of only a few hundred meters can propagate up to 3 times the alleged speed of light. It's also been experimentally shown that voltage fluctuations in ordinary electrically short copper lines move at signal velocities that are significantly higher than the speed of light in a vacuum. Gain-assisted linear anomalous dispersion has been used to demonstrate superluminal light propagation. Superluminal means faster than the speed of light. An atomic cesium gas, a light pulse propagating through the atomic vapor cell, appears at the exit so much earlier than if it had propagated in a vacuum that the peak of the pulse appears to leave the cell before entering it. Yikes. Okay. Now, here was the summary, and now we're going to move on to some more gravy. I wanted to cover this basics with you. So you guys, because a lot of people that have been going at me seem to not have actually looked at the presentation and understood what was presented yet. But who cares? We're not going to capitulate to stupidity. We're going to elevate. In actuality, light does not have a speed, but it does have a rate of induction. This rate of induction is relative to the media involved. When light enters glass, it does not slow down and speed back up, as would violate the conservation of energy and momentum. Rather, the glass acts as an additional medium, altering the perception of what we call light. Light is a disturbance in the background, and this energetic excitation results in illumination. We quantify the rate of perception, which is actually the rate of induction, into the background medium. Light is instantaneous. It is already there. Light obviously cannot be a physical particle traveling from point to point. If light is instant, as this is intrinsically contradictory and logically bankrupt. All right, now I'm going to play another video for you now. I'm going to introduce you to the mainstream identity of the photon, okay? With a little video. And again, now you have to claim light physically travels from point A to point B if it's comprised of little particles, unless you're just claiming there are literally little particles everywhere just sitting there, which doesn't even make sense because you're claiming it's a physical particle traveling. So you have to claim that it's traveling. If you claim it's traveling, you have to claim it has a speed. Can't claim it's instant. Can a physical particle travel from point A to point B instantly? Of course not. Okay, so this is why I'm trying to point out to people when they claim that light's a particle or a discrete chunk of information or a discrete chunk carrying information, right? They are claiming that it physically travels from point A to point B. When you invoke the double slit, you're claiming it goes through the slit and then it hits the plate. This is modern science. Everyone thinks photons are real. Everyone assumes that whenever you look at the sun, little photons are hitting your eyes. Everyone assumes when you take a picture, little photons hit the sensor in the camera. Whenever you're looking at anything, you only perceive it because photons are bombarding your eyeballs. That's literally what we're taught, right? And actually, if you look into the eye, you'll find out they don't know anything about the eye. But all right, so let's go ahead and let's play this video. It's 2.5 minutes. It's going to describe to you what the mainstream says. And it's also what certain flat earthers are saying and what the photon is. And then we're gonna go through exactly what's going on with the photon or what's going on with light. We're gonna make an informed intellectual decision on what really light could be, do these claims hold weight, etc. And you need to understand this is the most important building block for all of this pseudoscience. The heliocentric model needs the speed of light. When they claim that they see stars from millions of light years away and all this nonsense, that's all based on the speed of light. Their gravity is based on the speed of light. Quantum mechanics as an entire field is based upon their understanding of light and the speed of light. Okay, so it seems to be a pretty big deal. If this isn't accurate, everything has to be scrapped. All right, so you guys tell me in the chat, make sure everything is sounding good. Should be good, though. Educational purposes, fair use acts. Ooh. Experience as if they're sentient. So to say from the perspective, so photons don't experience time as if they're sentient. From the perspective, there's no time. What that means in layman terms is if you went the quote unquote speed of light, you would experience timelessness. That's relativity wrapped up in a bow. All right, there you go. So there's basically what they claim about the photon. They claim it's a physical particle traveling from point A to point B. One of the primary arguments is that the double slit proves the photon, the photoelectric effect. Now, again, I encourage people to go read the presentation because I covered these things. I covered the photoelectric effects. I covered parametric down conversion, right? So I come down here, I cover parametric down conversion. I cover the photoelectric effect. We expose the photoelectric effect in depth. All right. Like in depth. Now, if you guys in the chat say that you want me to cover this again towards the end of the stream, I will. I'll cover the stuff they claim proves the photon, but I want us to get into the gravy. I covered the double slit. These are the three primary claims that supposedly prove that light's a photon, okay? I did not type all that up for no reason. I did that hoping that people would actually listen. Thank you, Sam, for becoming a level 1 Miss Swit. Thank you for becoming a member, brother. Greatly appreciated. All right, so I want to get into the gravy with you guys. I need us to watch a couple more videos. So bear with me. Now this is just a minute and a half. This is going to show another fundamental problem with a photon. Like I said, I'm interested in presenting their best arguments. I'm telling you what they say with the glass. I'm telling you what they say with the water. It doesn't slow down. It takes a longer path, right? I'm giving you both sides. I want you to make an informed decision. I don't need to fundy mute the other side or not let you hear it. I want you to hear the lunacy of that side as I see it. Okay, a minute and 30. I don't really know what this guy's talking about. I'm gonna play background music instead of listening to this guy. All right, so let's watch this magical photon. Hopefully the background music plays. I've never played it before. Light is now blocked. Uh-oh. Hey. All right, so hopefully you guys heard the music. I've never done that before. So I saw someone ask a Professor Phil, who is a particle physicist, in the chat, how does it stop and then come back? And he said, well, that's too complicated to explain here. You have too much of a learning curve. No, he just can't explain it. That's what it is. They can't explain it. They cannot explain. There's admittedly an unknown variable to some extent, or there is something wrong about the assumption of what they think light is. Admittedly so. Okay? This ties in with the EPR paradox, and it's called the quantum Venn diagram paradox. Now, as you saw, you have light going through the polarized lens. You tilt one of the polar lenses 90 degrees or perpendicular. It blocks the photon to where it has effectively a 0% probability of getting through it. So if you line up two polar lenses perfectly, 100% it's going to get through it. Now, because they're all about their math, right? So we gotta look at their math. We're going to use their math to debunk them, which is easy. They debunk themselves all the time with their own math. Just like the globe Earth. You flip the polar lens over 90 degrees. Now it has a 0% chance. You take another lens, you put it in there. Now the light comes back. Now, the numbers stop matching up as you turn it around at different angles. The light starts coming through even brighter. It's not supposed to. And based on the angle, say 45 degrees, you should get about 75%, but you get 85 to 90% of the light coming through. Long story short, they can't explain why the light gets back through the polarized lens based on the probability distribution that they have presupposed with the photon. And they love to claim that the photon is both a wave and a particle, but you cannot have dualities. That is a claim of an inherent contradiction. Things cannot be two contradictory things at the same time, obviously. Also, waves aren't things, they're just types of movement. Now, quantum field theory claims that it's a quantum field. Hopefully, I'm making this simple enough so everyone can follow it. I don't want it to come across too complicated or anything like that. So we got, I think, maybe one or two more videos, and then I'm going to get into what light actually is and how it's clearly not what they claim that it is. All right, this one's called Now what FED has been doing, for example, I've been asking one of my unanswerable questions. What you found out is I'm like, okay, look, atomism is a philosophy, the ether is a philosophy. The philosophical logical frameworks used to interpret the world. One's viable, can actually explain all phenomena. One's consistently not viable, logically bankrupt, has tons of contradictions, tons of paradoxes, and is, antithetical to Occam's razor, common sense, logic, and rationale. Okay? So now everyone's attaching themselves from the claim of atomism. I'm not claiming atomism. I'm not claiming the atomic theory. I'm not claiming the atom. I'm not claiming the photon. I'm not claiming the electron. I'm not claiming the proton. I'm not claiming the neutron. I'm not making these claims. But you are. When you claim that light's a physical particle, you're claiming that it's a photon. And whenever you claim a photon, you're claiming an electron. When you claim the photoelectric effect, you're claiming an electron. You're reifying an electron. Whenever you invoke parametric down conversion, you're doing the same thing. You're just reifying the photon, a physical particle, all based on atomic theory. Everyone's attached themselves. Now, I asked a few questions at the end of my presentation. Now, of course, my presentation has not been rebutted. That should speak volumes to everyone in and of itself, that they can't rebut the actual arguments, okay? One of the questions is, how does a single photon go through two slits simultaneously and then collide with itself? They're saying it doesn't. No one's claiming that. It doesn't. Now, I didn't hear them actually say that. Apparently, that's what they said because the dude made a hit piece about me, talking about I'm a liar. I didn't hear him say that. I was trying wireless headphones out for the first time when I had this new setup, and this first time I was on Discord, this mic and headphones. So it was breaking up a lot. I didn't even hear half the stuff. It doesn't even matter, though. Okay, so they're saying that it doesn't. Now, mainstream says that it does. That it can have two positions simultaneously, superposition, that the photon's over here and over here simultaneously, goes through the slit simultaneously, then collides with itself, and that's what gives you the interference pattern, so it acts as a particle and a wave, okay? Now, waves aren't things or types of movement. That statement's just ignorant. I told you how the photoelectric effect works. I know how you claim the photoelectric effect works, Phil. That's why I'm exposing it for the nonsense that it is. Yo, man, these people, academic arrogance, man, I tell you, man. They claim that in the photoelectric effect, a physical particle called a photon hits an atom, exchanges energy to the atom, dislodges the electron by exchanging energy to it so it has enough energy to escape its orbit. The orbital electron gets dislodged from the atom once the photon exchanges energy to it. Then it continues to exchange the rest of its energy to the electron, effectively merging into it, morphing into it, turning into a photoelectron. That is the claim. That is called pseudoscience. Okay. And they claim that it debunked the wave particle of light. Watch, for example, like, just to expose him. Now, watch. He's in the chat. This is an actual particle physicist, okay? He won't answer. He can't answer my presentation at all. Now, I just want to make a point for the viewers. We have an actual particle physicist. He does this for a living. He's in the chat. Okay, now he's talking about how he knows for sure that they know the full answer. I'm being ignorant, all this stuff, right? He will not respond. He will not rebut what I'm about to show, okay? And that should be very telling to people. So we're going to come over here. wait a minute, to the double slit experiment. I mean, to the photoelectric effect. Share screen. Okay, watch this. So Einstein was given the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect. It claims what I just told you, that the charged particles are released within a material when it absorbs electromagnetic radiation. Its effect is often defined as the ejection of electrons. The photoelectric effect is claimed to be a resonance phenomenon in which a photon is absorbed and an electron is ejected. This effect is invoked as if to prove that light consists of photons. It is claimed that each particle, light, photon, collides with an electron and uses some of its energy to dislodge it. Just told you guys that. It's claimed that an electron has half the spin of a photon and that the electron is matter while the photon is energy. It's also claimed that energy and mass are interchangeable. Of course, spin does not refer to actual physical spin, rather oscillation. Okay, to invoke the technology utilizing this phenomenon as if to prove it is ridiculous. It's kind of like a Glober saying you can't use your phone without believing in gravity because it has an accelerometer. We don't dispute the effect. We don't dispute the fact that light has an interaction with the electric nature of a metal plate. We dispute that you think there are little physical particles dapping each other up and going crazy and bombarding everywhere. The photoelectric effect is not observed with amorphous metals, whether amorphous semiconductors or conductors. This fact, in and of itself, refutes the photon. He won't respond to that. He will not respond to the fact that the photoelectric effect is not observed in all amorphous metals, and it should be, whether that amorphous metal is a semiconductor or a conductor, that automatically debunks the photon, but that's not even the good part. Now, here's the part. Now, let's see if Mr. Particle Physicist, because I want to pull back the veil. We have a bunch of people, they want to ridicule you. They have the arrogance of consensus on their side. The truth is, open your mind, inform yourself. They're not better than you. Their PhD did nothing more than make it more difficult for them to wake up. They went in debt to be indoctrinated, right? A lot of you have woken up to the deception of where you live. You've woken up to a lot of deceptions. I would love for you to throw this in your arsenal. It may seem kind of nerdy. You might wonder what it matters. You'll realize what it matters once you really start to absorb and understand some of these things. I'm trying my best to make it digestible because they've tried to overcomplicate things, but divinity is simplicity. Where we live has a natural order. It's not that complicated. Okay, now watch. He will not respond. I want everyone to soak that in. I'm not lying. The live chat will be replayed for everyone to see. Right? It's Dr. Phil. He's in the chat. Let's see if he can respond. It's so easy. Okay. Within the quantum paradigm itself, okay, which is what we're contending, within that paradigm itself, the claim that the photoelectric effect proves the photon is not true. Let's check it out. Within the quantum paradigm, it has been known since the 60s that the photoelectric effect does not definitively imply the existence of photons. It is ambiguous whether it is the electronic levels or the impinging radiation that should be quantized. Of course, again, it is impossible to quantify the material. To even get to this determination requires the presupposition that everything is comprised of tiny physical particles that can be quantified and requires the reification of the electron. Well, wait for it, Dr. Phil or Professor Phil. It's claimed that the photoelectric effect disproves the wave theory of light because the energy of a wave increases with an increase in intensity, right? Okay, it's claimed the photoelectric effect disproves the wave theory of light because the energy of a wave increases with an increase in intensity. Yet, in the photoelectric effect, increase in intensity has no effect on the energy of electrons emitted. However, the current on the photodetector is proportional to the intensity of light impinging on the cathode. Therefore, the relation between intensity and current naturally falls out. Therefore, the claim that debunks waves is incorrect, fraudulent, and fallacious. Waves are actually not things. They're types of movement. He cannot respond. He will not respond. But wait, it gets worse. Standard reference for quantum optics, sections 9.1 through 9.5, show that the electron field responds to a classical external electromagnetic radiation field by emitting electrons according to Poisson law probabilities, very much like that interpreted by Einstein in terms of light particles. Thus, the quantum detector produces discrete Poisson distributed clicks, although the source is completely continuous, and there are no photons at all in the quantum mechanical model. The state space of this quantum system consists of multi-electron states only. So here, the multi-electron system followed by a macroscopic decoherence process that leads to the multiple dot localization of the emitted electron field, is responsible for the creation of the dot pattern. This proves that the clicks cannot be taken to be a proof of the existence of photons. And this is L. Mandel and E. Wolf, Optical Coherence and Quantum Optics, Cambridge University, 1995. Game over. Game, set, match. And this right here also debunks your entire claim if you claim that that little dot pattern that we observe on the plate in the double slit proves that light's a photon. This is why you'll never hear them. Look, I'm going to come full screen. This is why you'll never hear FED or any of these people rebut my presentation. They don't understand it. They don't have intentions of having intellectually honest exchange. I didn't just throw things out. I tactically made my presentation. It took me a couple days straight. It took me hours to make the presentation, okay? Whenever they claim that what we have to explain is that there's little dot patterns, and I'll show you guys a picture in a second, that there are little dots on this plate that proves that light is a photon, that isn't true at all. The electron itself would give you this pattern. Now, we've covered the electron is actually nothing more than the terminal end of one unit line of dielectric induction. If you were to just draw a bunch of dotted lines on a page, that gap in between those lines is what they call an electron. Now, you can try to quantify it, but it isn't real. It isn't tangible. It doesn't individually exist on its own. It's nothing more than a gap in a field, a dielectric field to be specific. Really soak that in. It's game, set, match. Thank you for playing, Professor Phil. Stop trying to bash people in the chat like you got some type of intellectual superiority. He says, this is a load of garbage. That's my response. So this is all he's got. This is all he's got. He just says, nuh-uh. This is a particle physicist, bro. Everyone soak this in. Again, the chat will immediately show you. His response is just, nuh-uh. This is a grown adult that is a particle physicist and does this for a living. Everyone soak it in. And again, I just now explained that, I'll read this part again, okay? Although the source is completely continuous and there are no photons at all in the quantum mechanical model, the state space of this quantum system consists of multi-electron states only. So here the multi-electron system, followed by a macroscopic decoherence process that leads to the multiple dot localization of the emitted electron field, which again is actually a dielectric field. You see how they've hijacked what I'm trying to tell you? I'm trying to tell you what Tesla told you and J.J. Thomson told you and Oliver Heaviside told us. They hijacked it, okay, and then they hid it because they needed relativity. Now, did you hear what it says right there? It says, consists of multi-electron states only. So here the multi-electron system followed by a macroscopic decoherence process that leads to the multiple dot localization of the emitted electron field. You mean the discharging nature of the dielectric field, the electrostatic field, the gaps within the dielectric field. You have an electronic interaction, and then that gives you a localization of energy that can be isolated due to pressure mediation, right? You'll never get a rebuttal. There is no rebuttal. I took this from Cambridge University. This is just objectively what it is within their own paradigm. And it really isn't complicated or hard to understand. He just doesn't want to acknowledge it. So anyway, we're going to move on from that. But it was interesting to use him to show the facade and the idea that these physicists know so much more than we know. That's wrong. I talked to them. They don't know. All right, now I want to show you guys what's really going on with light now. I think I might have to show you guys. I wanted to show you guys maybe one more video. No, I don't think I have to show you another video. Yeah, we're going to show you one more video. Okay, so now I say, how does a single photon go through two slits at the same time and then collide with itself? How does that work? Oh, well, photons can be different places simultaneously. It's called superposition, and that's a wave and a particle at the same time, even though waves aren't things. Okay? Yeah, waves just math, but it can be there, blah, blah, blah. Now, FED is even more ridiculously off, right? At least they admit they have to claim something. They just say, no, you just don't get it. The particle just moves in this perfect pattern. It just moves by itself. It goes a little to the left and it just moves perfectly. It'll make it look like it's a wave. And we don't know which slit it's going through because every time we try to detect it, it collapses. Oh, okay. Now, they claim superposition in the modern academia, which is where the photon comes from. Okay? Now, watch this. They claim that that's not what happens. I want to show you guys what's actually going on here. Now, this is 5 minutes. Bear with me. Let me throw this on. Now, again, now they're claiming, no one claims that. It doesn't do that. Okay? A single photon doesn't go through 2 slits. Now, I want you to just watch this. And like I said, I know we're about an hour in, but I'm laying all this out for you to show the problems, and then I'm going to read to you a much more coherent explanation of what's actually going on with the light, okay? And it'll make a lot more sense to you. It's much more intuitive, and it makes a ton more sense. All right? All right, let's show. Ad homs. If this is a particle physicist, his rebuttal is an ad hom and claiming I don't understand it. We all just read it. I cited it. L. Mandel and E. Wolf, Optical Coherence and Quantum Optics, Cambridge University Press, 1995. A standard reference for quantum optics, sections 9.1 through 9.5. Yikes. Okay. Let's check this out. It's 5 minutes. And this is going to show you the nonsense of what they claim. Now, this is considered top tier science. This is what this is what people are running around saying. Don't talk about the ether. We know that light's this and this and this and this, and they're making all kinds of pseudoscientific claims as we claim. Oh, it's a logical framework, and ours makes more sense. Yours is ridiculous. They're claiming science. They're claiming this is scientifically proven because they don't understand what the dot pattern is. They don't understand the reifying the electron. They don't understand that you don't physically take a picture of a photon. That's not how it works. You have an electronic interaction, and there's an isolation, a localization of that interaction within the dielectric field. It's a gap in the dielectric field. That energy that is dielectricity, that is electrostatics, mediates pressure to an area between it. You can quantify it. You can isolate it, but it's nothing in and of itself. It's just a gap inside of a field. Okay, now let's check this out. And so you guys can get an understanding of why I asked, can a single photon go through 2 slits at the same time and then collide with itself? Please enlighten me. Because what they claim is that a single photon goes through 2 slits at the same time, collides with itself. Now, don't ask me how they got a single photon. They made that up. They don't actually know that. Then it collides with itself. And then when we observe it, it knows we're going to observe it before we even decide that we're going to observe it because it transcends time. It's effectively a god. It's sentient. And then, in fact, it can actually go back in time after reading our mind and alter events that have already happened. Now, I say this, incorporating hyperbole to elucidate the insanity of their side, obviously. Right? You'll never talk to a physicist that'll literally say it like that. Well, I'm going to say it for what it is. I don't have a bias of educational reputation, right? I'm just being honest. All right. Anyway, let's check it out.
Previously on Veritasium, we saw how our understanding of light has changed over the centuries. In the late 1600s, Huygens proposed that light was a type of wave, while Newton considered it a stream of particles. This debate appeared to be settled in 1801 by Young's double-slit experiment, which showed light passing through 2 slits produced patterns like water waves. But by 1900, it was clear that light energy was not evenly distributed as expected for a wave. Rather, on the smallest scales, it comes in lumps called quanta or photons. So the question is, how does this affect the double-slit experiment? Here I have a more contained double-slit experiment where there is a laser which fires a beam through a single slit, then through a double slit, and onto a screen where you can see a well-defined interference pattern. There's a series of bright and dark bands, which are much easier to observe than when I use sunlight, because with only one wavelength, there are no other colors involved. This is what a graph of intensity versus position would look like for the interference pattern. What creates that pattern? Consider the bright spot in the middle. The light from each slit has to travel the same distance to reach that point, and hence both waves arrive in phase. That means crests with crests and troughs with troughs. So they add together and create an interference maximum, a bright spot. But if you look slightly to the left, there's a dark spot. Now that's because light from one slit has to travel on an angle, and it has to travel an extra half a wavelength compared to the light from the other slit, which means when this light is arriving as a crest, the light from the other slit is arriving as a trough, and so they cancel each other out. But if you go further left, you see another bright spot, because now the light from one of the slits has to travel a full extra wavelength compared to the light from the other slit, and so again they arrive in phase, crests with crests and troughs with troughs, creating constructive interference, and so we see a bright spot of light. And that's how the whole pattern is created. But what if I decreased the intensity so much that there wasn't a whole wave of light going through there? There were only single photons. Then how could they interfere with each other because there's only one in the device at any one time? So would we still see an interference pattern? That is what we're going to find out. In order to make this work, I had to line up a very faint source, and to see where the light was going, I had to shroud my head in that black cloth. But I finally have the apparatus ready. You can see up here I have a frequency counter which actually counts the number of photons received per second at the detector. The detector is a photomultiplier tube which is capable of detecting single photons. It's like a very sensitive eye, like the frog's eye. Now right now there's no light passing through to the detector, but there is still a bit of a background reading, and that's because I can't block all the light out of there. Plus there are cosmic rays passing through this room which will also set off the detector. I'm plotting a graph of the number of photons counted as a function of position across the detector.
Oh, cosmic rays, which will also self-detector. You mean background radiation that's always everywhere? Interesting, huh? Interesting. Let's continue.
To have a look after 1 second, the distribution seems random. There doesn't seem to be any pattern in the arrangement of those photons as they hit the detector. So maybe it's true. A single photon can't interfere with itself because it's just a localized point. It has to go through one slit or the other. But just to be sure, let's add up the results over a period of time and see if any pattern emerges. Look at that. You can clearly see the same interference pattern that we got when we were sending tons of photons through, but we're getting it out of single photons. We're counting up individual photons. And that pattern is emerging as we aggregate the results over time. But how could this be happening? How could a single photon pass through both slits? Well, if we try to interpret these results in terms of the objects we experience every day, they don't make any sense. A photon is something...
You don't say. You don't say.
pass through both slits, individual photons. And that pattern is emerging as we aggregate the results over time. But how could this be happening? How could a single photon pass through both slits? Well, if we try to interpret these results in terms of the objects we experience every day, they don't make any sense. A photon is something different to a macroscopic object. It's not a wave and it's not a particle, it's a quantum mechanical object. And sometimes it seems like it has properties of a wave, and sometimes it seems like it has properties of a particle, but ultimately it is something totally different to anything we've experienced before.
You don't say.
And that's what makes this seem so counterintuitive. So what is light, wave or particle? The true answer, I think, is neither.
There you go.
So if you want, you could call it a wavicle.
Why would you ever do that?
Created by...
Why would you ever do that? Well, the truth is, it's neither. It's counterintuitive. It doesn't make any sense. We don't know what it is. It's something we've never experienced. But we can call it a wavicle. What? This is the side. It doesn't matter if you want to detach yourself and say, I'm making no claims. When you claim that light is a physical particle, that it's a quanta of energy, it's a quanta of information, it's a packet of energy, you are making claims. Okay? Sorry about it. All right, now let's get into the gravy. Let's get into the gravy, baby. So first I'll show you guys what's so confounding to these people. They think this proves that light's a particle, I guess. I don't know. I've yet to figure it out. Okay, now you see this. Zoom in a little bit. All right. Okay. Now you see these little dots. They think these dots prove that light is a photon. Okay. Now you see that it creates a very perfect pattern here. Right? So like, this is so confusing. Wave interference pattern. Right? Now these slits are actually nothing more than the isolation of the dielectric field, the gap within the dielectric field. Now light is composed of two primary components, right? The dielectric and the magnetic, okay? Because the background has all of this in it. And so you have a physical piece of matter here that has electrostatic nature, and you're going to get a reading there based on the oscillation that is the light in the background. This electrostatic field is going to give you an isolated pattern. Just like I read to you from within the quantum paradigm itself, right? You'll get the quote unquote electron dot pattern, right? Based on the electrostatic field, which they would call the electron field. Okay. Okay. Let's now move on. Now we're going to read some of the gravy. I guess I can show you guys this one too. Share screen. All right. Now here you go. This is what baffles the mind. Now you see the lines right here, right? You see the discrete line. So it's like, why is it acting like a particle in a wave? In the dumb remedial mind says these dots prove that light is comprised of physical particles that are hitting, like you're shooting it with a BB gun, hitting the plate. Okay? It's literally that simple, bro. It literally is that. That's what they think. They think that proves it. Prove it. Oh, how do you explain it with a wave? How do you explain it? Oh, man, you need light to be a wave, or you don't need a medium. A wave's not a thing. It is the medium. You can't grab a wave out of water, bro. It's so ridiculous to keep on saying wave as if it's a thing. It's a type of movement, transverse movement, oscillation, vibration, reverberation, perturbation. It does not travel. So when we use the word propagation, it has to be clarified. It is not literally propagating as in from point A to point B. Now, if I go into the middle of a lake and I wave my arms and I create waves, am I emitting something? Am I emitting something from my arms? Am I emitting waves? No, I'm just disturbing the water, bro. Okay. Now we're going to come over here. I got to be able to find it. Where's it at? Okay. Now we're going to come over here. This is some gravy. And I think this will really maybe start to make sense to you guys. Actually, we're gonna share screen. I don't know which one it is, so I think maybe it's this one. No. Share screen. Wow. Here we go. All right. Now there's a lot of gravy on here, right? But we're gonna read this part right now. Okay. I'm gonna pull the chat up so I can read with you guys. If you want to support the channel, hook a brother up with a membership. We got 5 different levels. They come with different perks. I think that you should be able to read the perks. Anyway. All right. If you think that Einstein would be able to live out his life sticking to his youthful aberrations, like the 1905 papers, which is special relativity, you're mistaken. He went on international lecture tours promoting himself as an ether physicist. Quote unquote, light propagates through the sea of ether in which the earth is moving. In other words, the ether is moving with respect to the earth. That was him in Tokyo, 1923. Now, don't get ahead of yourself. This is where ignorant people will tout victory and say, oh, look, Austin's promoting. I told you Einstein needed the ether. Pump the brakes. And in Albert Einstein, Infield, The Evolution of Physics, 1938, we read, our only way out seems to be to take for granted the fact that space has the physical property of transmitting electromagnetic waves. So he has to admit that space must have physical properties to allow light to propagate, which therefore can no longer be called a vacuum, which has per definition no physical properties. That Einstein was a mystic and not a scientist becomes very clear in the continuation of this sentence. And not to bother too much about the meaning of this statement, we may still use the word ether, but only to express some physical property of space. Our only way out seems to be to take for granted the fact that space has the physical property of transmitting electromagnetic waves, and not to bother too much about the meaning of this statement. We may still use the word ether, but only to express some physical property of space, because they could not have the electrical field theory ether, whereas a medium and motion can be applied primary substance, as Tesla would have coined it, because it debunked that the Earth was moving. So ether, yes. But the moment you have made this necessary concession, forget about it and pretend it not to be important. That is mysticism, not science. What about photons and electrons and the entire CERN particle zoo? All figments of imagination, mathematical artifacts, confabulations. In case of CERN, this is a simple conclusion. The machine is powered by gigawatts of particle-free and massless electric energy, yet produces, or finds, as they call it, elementary particles. Okay. In case of photons and electrons, Maxwell and Thomson give us the answer. The Maxwell-Thomson concept of electric induction and the concept of the ether, which engenders this induction, comes from the experimentation and observation, not from thought experiments, mind you, and considers the dielectric lines of force and the magnetic lines of force as concrete physical realities. There's a picture of a ferrocell cell of a magnetic field. Really just check that out. You have centrifugal divergence, right? And then you have centripetal convergence on the inside, right? So it's a toroid, and then you have the conjugate geometry of both the hyperboloid and the toroid, inside and outside of a donut, centrifugal, centripetal, convergent or divergence, convergence. Okay, now you have just dielectric or electrostatics and magnetic lines. I'm trying to make this digestible. Okay, you have two different things. You have dielectric or electrostatics and magnetic. Now, these are two different things, but just two different versions of the same thing. So they're not technically different things. It's like ice and water, liquid water and steam. They're different, but they're the same thing. Okay? It's important to understand this. Different versions, different modalities of the same thing. Okay. Let's move on. Eric Dollard. These lines can be considered tubes of force. Visualize that. A hydrodynamical vortex tube of sorts. Here we find that the hydrodynamical model of the ether, as given by James Clerk Maxwell. Understanding of this sort has been buried by the relativists and quantum car mechanics. From the initial concept of Faraday, come up here, through the theoretical initial concept of Faraday, through the theoretical reasoning of Maxwell, into the experimentalist like Crookes and J.J. Thomson, it gave an engineerable concept of the primordial ether, or the primary state, as Tesla would point. Finally, Nikola Tesla, Oliver Heaviside, and Carl Steinmetz turned this into today's electrical technology. Thus, the cross product of a single tube of dielectric induction with a single tube of magnetic induction gives birth to a single unit of electrification, or what we call electricity. This idea embodies the concept of the photon, a quantum unit of electromagnetic induction. That means a photon is not a thing. It is the crossing point of magnetism and dielectricity, like two spaghettis crossing. You wouldn't call that point a thing either. It is an event, the crossing of the magnetism and dielectricity. A photon is an event, and events evolve in time. As for the electron, Thomson considered it to be the terminal end of one unit line of dielectric induction, like the end of a spaghetti. You can point at it, you can describe it, measure it, but it has no independent existence. It is an aspect of another reality, spaghetti. So light does not travel through space, and electricity does not travel through wires. Physically, there is neither exclusively the one or the other, only the combined conjugate induction phenomenon of magneto-dielectricity. Conjugate means the inversion of, basically, the other side of the coin. Okay? So physically, there is neither exclusively the one or the other. Only the combined conjugate induction phenomenon of magneto-dielectricity, which is electricity, and its coherent hybrid. The polarization of the ether between space and counterspace, where magnetism is spatial expansion. When we say space and counterspace, I want to define this stuff for you guys. Counterspace being like the background itself, the area where everything is in its pure potential state, the primordial, initial, primary state of the substance, primary state of substance, primary state of matter, the initial, primordial, primary state of the background, right? The pure potential, unmanifest, non-manifest background. Now you have space, which is this perceivable area where it's not at rest. It's manifest. It's manifest and it's in motion and it's moving around and it's constantly in this process of trying to get back to its original state, its primordial state, its primary state, the dielectric state at rest, effectively. The ether, counter space. So you perceive the manifest. Space means volume, okay? Right? We're not redefining it as if it's an actual thing, right? Like there is space between here and there, right? We understand what it means. It's a concept, right? It's volume, okay? Now, we cannot attribute physical properties to the idea of what is between here and there. That's ridiculous. That's what space-time does. They're ignorant, right? But it's very interesting because you're going to see how they hijacked the ether, right? And they took us down a road of mysticism. So anyway, I hope that I identified counterspace for you guys because I know it sounds kind of mystical and woo-woo when you haven't heard it. And when we become so repulsed and vehemently opposed to the nonsense that is space-time, spatial curvature, relativity, both special and general. Okay. Hope I'm making sense to you guys. I don't want to rush through it if you guys don't understand the terms. Physically, there is neither exclusively the one or the other, only the combined conjugate induction phenomenon of magneto-dielectricity, the polarization of the ether between space and counterspace, where magnetism is spatial expansion and dielectricity is counterspatial acceleration. The term acceleration here is not acceleration through space, but of space itself. I know that's hard for us to wrap our mind around. Okay? But there is this. It's like if you envision like a matrix. If you envision like the glitch effect, like glitch, right? It can go back and forth between the non-manifest and the manifest. Just because something's not perceivable to your naked eye does not mean that it does not exist. And that is ignorant to ever think that is the case. That's just like the people that ridicule other people say, I think there's more light here than what we see. You're so stupid. There's a whole spectrum. Our eyes only see a small portion of it. Okay? All right, let's move on. Term acceleration here is not acceleration through space, but of space. It is the collapse of magnetism into counter space. Everything's trying to get back to counter space, to the homeostasis state of the ether. The pure potential homeostasis, non-manifest background, the original state, the primordial state. I'm using a bunch of different ways to say it. Hopefully it clicks with you. This is why objects do not resist this acceleration, whereas they resist all acceleration through space and it's perceivable. This perceivable manifest section, right? Now, Newton applies only to acceleration through space, not to acceleration to space, which is why it didn't work. Even within their paradigm, right? As they frantically tried to, and he himself told you, again, of course, Newton himself did not actually propose a mechanism. He said something to the effect of the idea that innate brute matter would act on other innate brute matter through the vastness of a vacuum without anything acting between them or basically connecting them without anything interconnecting them is to me so great an absurdity that no man with competent faculty of thinking in philosophical matters could ever fall into it. And whether this mechanism be material or immaterial, I've left up to the consideration of the readers, right? He specifically said, do not attribute that nonsense to me. And that's exactly what they did. But anyway. Okay. Newton applies only to acceleration through space, not to acceleration of space. What is called gravity is acceleration of space. Bodies do not resist falling, whereas they resist to be thrown. Gravity is not a Newtonian phenomenon, but a Faradayian one. No, I don't want to say Faraday in that sense. Faradayian one. Is electric. Faraday. As with the seemingly plausible but utterly misleading image of electricity running through wires or light having a velocity, we are kept asleep in the complacency of the ad hoc plausibility of the compass needle pointing north and thus indicating poles of Earth as being physical realities. This is also misleading and on purpose not clarified. The Earth is called a magnet with the magnetic north and south pole, but magnets accumulate material at their poles, which Earth's alleged poles do not. Alleged poles is said specifically because obviously we were lied to about what the Earth is. Okay, just a little bit more. Compass needles are not attracted to the poles of accumulation equals no poles. They orient themselves north and south, but that does not mean that there is a north and south thing going on. On the contrary, this indicates that the Earth is like a solenoid, that there is an east and west thing going on, to which the compass needle reacts by orienting itself orthogonally. Below, we have a left-right thing going on, but the needle would orient itself up and down without being attracted, neither up nor down. So how does light travel through space? There is no such thing as space in the classical meaning of independent emptiness with which things are happening. Space is the thing that is happening, or rather, one aspect of the conjugate event called magneto-dielectricity. It is the magnetic aspect responsible for giving rise to volume. An atom is not mostly empty space, as is claimed. It is volume. And this volume is not a thing. It is an event. It is motion, force, dispersion of energy. Its conjugate counterpart is anti-volume, if you want. It is its absolute rest, inertia, acceleration, concentration of energy, the ether in its non-manifest primary state of the substance or matter. The polarization of the ether can be described as force and motion, opposite inertia and acceleration. And with these two principles, the rest of all phenomena could be understood if understanding was the goal. It's clearly not, right? The primordial substance called ether has no extension and no duration, a concept difficult to grasp for post-Einstein minds. But Poincaré could still think in these terms, and we should try to regain that capacity. Time and space, it is not nature which imposes them upon us. It is we who impose them upon nature because we find them convenient. They are merely abstractions, conceptual abstractions in which we use to try to understand the world around us. Time is a human quantification of passing based on motion of the sky. It's not a real thing. You can't go grab time. You can't bend time. It can't widen. It can't slow down. None of that's real. But of course, the lunacy of relativity, because of the lunacy of the heliocentric model, counterintuitive, counter and antithetical to all actual observable phenomena, has brought apart the lunacy that is the idea that space and time, these two concepts, can have physical properties of bending and warping and dilating, right? Because there cannot be anything back there. Now, we know this. That's the primordial state of the substance, of the matter, right? It's the non-manifest pure potential counter space energy. It's unmanifest pure potential. There's definitely something there, okay? It's a medium. It can have motion applied to it. In fact, when certain types of motion are applied to it, it's arguable that that manifests as matter itself, as what Tesla would say, which is that when it's thrown into infinitesimal prodigious whirls of velocity, it manifests as matter. When the energy resides, it reverts back into the matter and back into the energy state, or the primordial state of the matter, which is the ether. Simply put, that background, whenever there's very small, very fast whirls of velocity within it, because motion can be applied to it, it can actually manifest inside this as this material world. As in, everything is connected, there's a spectrum of it. It's very similar to what light itself is, where we see there's not a square inch on the entire earth that there is no light, right? There's light everywhere, but we just perceive a small portion of it. Okay, it's a great analogy. Did you realize that we only see a very small portion of the light that's here? There's literally light everywhere. If you get the darkest cave in the world, you go to the bottom of the ocean, there's not a square inch on the entire earth you can find no light. Light is literally everywhere, always. Our eyes only perceive a very small amount of that spectrum of oscillation, vibration, effectively the conjugate relationship between the dielectric, electrostatic, and the magnetic, right? Oscillating conjugate relationships, vibrations, disturbances, reverberations within the background. We perceive just a small version of that, okay? It's much like the material world, it seems. where the material world is just but a small little portion of what's actually here. And we perceive just a small visible spectrum, like we have visible light, but there's way more light than the visible light. Okay? So hopefully this is making sense. Now I want to read that one more part one more time as it pertains to this specific thing. And I think I'm going to do it where like we cover like a bunch of the technical stuff once to twice a week, maybe once a week. And then we can talk about a bunch of other gravy, but okay, so I want to read this part again. So in the case of photons and electrons, Maxwell and Thomson give us the answer. The Maxwell-Thomson concept of electric induction and the concept of the ether which engenders this induction comes from experimentation, observation, and not from thought experiments, mind you, but physical manipulation, actual experiments that give us technology, and considers the dielectric lines of force and the magnetic lines of force as concrete physical realities. As you see them here, you can't see them with the naked eye, but we know that they're there. We can use for ourselves. We can actually manipulate the effect of magnetism. You go ask the people telling me to stop talking about this, they can't even tell you what magnetism is. They have no idea. They can't define energy. They can't define field. They can't define force. They can't tell you what magnetism is. Modern quantum mechanics, which is where they get their idea of a physical photon, a quantum of light, says that it's the exchange of virtual photons, as is electrostatics. Eric Dollard says these lines can be considered tubes of force. I think that's a very good way to break it down in a visualization. Little mini tubes of force. Okay, different modalities. It's like the tubes are the same types of tubes, but they're just slightly different types. That makes sense. The tubes are the same thing, but they're different. They're different types of the same thing. And they're little tubes of energy. Okay? A hydrodynamical vortex, two of sorts. Here we find the hydrodynamical model of the ether as given by James Clerk Maxwell. Understanding. Oh, how dare you? How double dog dare you? I just want you to understand. Get to the photon part, so you guys get the relevance here. How double dog dare you? Okay. So again, you see this right here. You see the magnetic and the dielectric lines. We'll get more into that in a later stream where we cover magnetism. Understanding this of sort has been buried by the relativists in quantum mechanics. Now, here's the important part as it pertains to now. Gave an engineerable concept of the primordial ether, which they threw away. And just like Charles Steinmetz said, for example, it really started the devolving of common sense with the electron and the reification of physical particle of matter, where sometimes it complicated the idea of the dielectric and the magnetic, and then the relationship between the two, which makes the understanding of dielectric fields unnecessarily complicated, as he would say. Okay, so the cross product, like a coaxial cable, like that's why I showed you the coaxial cable, a coaxial circuit. You have two lines of spaghetti. They cross each other. They're wrapping around each other effectively. They're intersecting. They're crossing. Okay, well, they're two different things, but they're different versions of the same thing. The dielectric and the magnetic. You can't have one without the other. Okay, they're moving around each other, right? Okay, so when you have a single tube of dielectric induction with a single tube of magnetic induction, this gives birth to the unit of electrification, which is what we call electricity. This idea embodies the concept of the photon, a quantum unit of electromagnetic induction. They say, oh, the photon doesn't have charge. Yeah, because the photon isn't there. It's nothing. There's nothing there. But it's always within an electromagnetic field. It's always within electromagnetic radiation. Oh, it's just always within an electric field and a magnetic field, an oscillating electric field, oscillating magnetic field. This is mainstream physics. I'll tell you, the photon is always the photon is always within electromagnetic radiation. This means that a photon is not a thing. It is a crossing point of magnetism and dielectricity, like two spaghettis crossing. You wouldn't call that point a thing either. It's an event. A photon is an event, and events evolve in time. It's an event, the crossing of the two fields, the dielectric and the electrostatic and the magnetic. And then now you look into it, they say the electrostatic is the exchange of virtual photons. They claim that magnetism is the exchange of virtual photons. And these virtual particles are not real. They're not the input or output of any experiment. They're just a concept to make our equations balance. We can't prove them. Their existence is questionable at best. Starting to maybe make sense. Are you starting to see it? See, the thing is that we do have physical evidence that shows us there's a relationship between a non-manifest, imperceivable realm that manifests physically. Okay, that's what we see. That's what we see. And it needs to be addressed. We need to try to understand it. So, okay, sorry if that was a bit technical or too much, but I hope that kind of made sense. And it just, the point is that what you're calling the photon is not an actual thing. So when people point to that stupid little screen that I showed you, I'll show you again. They point to that screen and say, "You're gonna have to explain why it looks like this." Bro, what are you talking about? Do I though? Oh yeah, do I? Okay, I'll explain it. I'm gonna put this to bed. Okay, this is nothing more than the effect of the dielectric and the magnetic, which, by the way, again, mainstream academia, your side claims that there's electromagnetic radiation everywhere and that the photon just travels right through the middle of it. It just like basically interacts with all the electromagnetic radiation around it, but it doesn't have a charge. No, it doesn't exist. Of course, it doesn't have a charge. Of course, the photon doesn't react to magnetism. It doesn't exist. It's not a real thing. It's not a thing in and of itself, literally. That's stupid. It's stupid. Okay, you have the oscillating dielectric, the oscillating magnetic. Now that's not actually traveling, it's already there. It just vibrates, it oscillates, okay? Oscillates and then it crosses each other. Crossing each other. That part where it crosses, they call that a photon. They call that a photon. It isn't a thing. It's an event, meaning it's when those two things intersect, cross one another. Okay, so you have this happen wherever you create the disturbance, which is where they claim they're shooting light from. And then now you have a plate sitting over here that's going to supposedly get hit like a BB gun. That's not what happens. And that plate's electrostatic. And it has an interaction. Now, they claim that this is an electron interacting with a photon and it gives you the reading of the dot pattern. And that's not real. Now, I'll just explain how it says, actually, we don't know that for sure. People just go around saying that. This is the quantum paradigm itself. It could just be the electron field doing it, giving us the dot pattern. Oh, yeah. Well, there's no such thing as the electron. The electron is a gap in the field. Okay, so we have discharge happening with an interaction of the dielectric and the magnetic, that is the light, the disturbance in the background, and it gives us an isolated pattern, a dot pattern, right? That's what it is. Now, you want to know why it lines up like a wave? Because you have a vibration or oscillation within the background that is waving. It's not a wave. Light's not a wave. A wave's not a thing. It's just the background. Now, how come when we observe it, it goes away? Because you're now introducing an additional disturbance, electric disturbance, a dielectric disturbance, electrostatic disturbance. They claim it's electrons. That's basically messing up the disturbance pattern that's already there because you're you're introducing a different disturbance. And then the simplest way to think about it is if you saw a wave going across a lake and then you took a rock and you threw it at the wave, what's going to happen to the wave? Now, when we say the wave going across the lake, there's not something physically traveling. The water's just there. There's just energy, vibration introduced. It's disturbing the water. And so we see the water move. And then we can sit back with our clipboards and try to quantify how fast it looks like the water moves. We can call the wave something. We can say that wave's made up of little balls and it's a wave and they're two different things in itself. We can pretend the water's not there. We can say that the water doesn't interact with water. We can make up all kinds of pseudoscience. The truth is, the water's just there. It reverberates, it oscillates, it vibrates, it's disturbed. Okay, there you go. Hopefully that made sense. How double dog dare you not believe my pseudoscience? Sorry if that kind of got a little bit quick or intense or something. And this brings us full circle. How does a physical particle called a photon a single photon go through two slits simultaneously, then collide with itself? It can't. How do you get an interference pattern from a single photon? Oh, it's sentient. It just happens to know to land in exactly the right way to make it look like it's a wave. Like FED is 100 steps behind. At least quantum says that there's a duality because they have to acknowledge the wave nature of it. A wave function is just math. Well, the math is describing the movement that you're claiming a physical particle is doing. So you're still talking about the movement. You don't get to say, oh, it's just math, so it doesn't count. No, you're claiming the particle is moving like a wave. That's what you're claiming. If you claim it's a particle, you're also claiming that it's moving and traveling from point A to point B if you claim it's a physical particle. Now you're claiming the speed of light because it obviously cannot be instant. Now, whether or not you claim a specific speed is irrelevant. You have to claim that there is a speed because it has to travel from point A to point B to be a physical particle to in any way pretend you're explaining anything, which you're obviously not. So I hope that this is all kind of making sense. I hope it makes sense. All those photon particles flying in my eyes, 669 million miles per hour, and they do nothing to me. Photon-proof eyelashes. Wow, dude, you do got some strong eyes, Sharon. Yikes. dielectricity plus magnetism. Oscillation equals disturbance, and the force equals propagates into the physical realm. Yeah, not bad. Not a bad one. It's not the worst description I've ever heard. I could critique it, of course. Like, you got to be careful with the word propagate, blah, blah, blah. Stop being mean to FED. They're trying to explain the naturally occurring phenomena of the single photon hitting the screen. Yeah, I know, dude. It's crazy, bro. And it's like, yeah, the single photon goes through two slits and collides with itself. And no, how does a wave make this happen? It's like, I just explained it. I explained it. So now you know. Let me get my Nobel Prize. I don't need it. It's not like it's just that you don't have the right framework. You're not even interpreting it properly or with any type of viability or anything. Like, you just, materialistic, relativistic nonsense. All right. Well, hopefully you guys got something out of that. I hope. Like I said, the actual thumbnail should have been this right here. The photon. And like I said, dude, I still got the presentation up, and dude, the presentation really kind of breaks down the nonsense that is the mainstream. And this is, now you're starting to understand why I say, well, light's just already there, right? Like, let's look at this. Let's do this. There isn't a place on the entire Earth you can find without light. Like, that should be pretty eye-opening to you. Wait, what? Light's literally everywhere? Literally everywhere, bro. Light is literally everywhere. There's not a square inch in the Earth that doesn't have background radiation. That's light. What's X-rays? What's gamma rays? What's infrared? How come animals are seeing light that we don't see? Because light's everywhere, bro. Light is everywhere. Literally everywhere. We just have a small spectrum that becomes perceivable, becomes visible once we excite it a certain way, and that's what we call light. Really, it's visible light. It's important to understand these things, but they're not complicated. It's like they lied to you and told you that the world is comprised of bombarding material particles bouncing everywhere that have positive and negative charges, and they want to dap up, and then they turn into different things. The photon turns into an electron. It can turn into an anti-electron of antimatter, and it's pair particle, and then it can spontaneously pop into existence and then degenerate and spontaneously pop out of existence, and we don't know where it comes from. The photon is sentient, can transcend time, and knows and can read your mind and knows when you're going to look at it before you decide that you're going to look at it, and it can go back and alter events that have already happened. And it's a wave and a particle at the same time, although that can't be the case because they're literally different things, and waves aren't things or types of movement. We can't invoke a medium because it debunks heliocentrism. The nonsense is insane. Okay, we have a physical light going through the light. It slows down and speeds back up when it goes through glass or goes through water, but no, I promise there's just like a million different little roadways inside the glass, and so it's taking along. That's a very cool story, bro. There's polarized lenses, and then one goes 90 degrees and blocks this physical photon. Then you just put another polarized lens there, all of a sudden the light comes back. We can't explain it, but we're going to do mathematics, and we're going to call it a paradox, and we're going to come up with some type of a thought experiment called Bell's theorem and explain it away and say, are there unknown variables or are there not? Maybe we'll never know. Maybe we're overlooking something, or there's something that we don't know. We can't figure it out. Therefore, that's science. We're good. We did figure it out. It's insanity, bro. It's so laughable, bro. When I started looking more in depth, I'm like, whoa, dude, because it was just counterintuitive to me to believe what they say about the physical photon. I knew they needed the speed of light. I knew they didn't have a one-way speed. They only have a two-way speed of light. This sucks because the videos are too long. I wanted to show you a quick video explaining the problem with that. But it's too long. 19 minutes. I do encourage you guys to go check it out, though. Potassium explaining. I haven't actually even watched it, but I heard it's good. And so I'm kind of suggesting something I don't actually know is good. But they don't have a one-way speed of light, bro. So let's just cover this for the basics for some people that don't know. This is going to be 5 minutes, but I'm going to go use the bathroom and refill my drink anyway. Then I'll come back. I'll chat with the chat. Yeah, chat with the chat. Better than veteran. Don't want to let him in. Ain't got to whip it to let him in. Don't teach you Tesla. Teaching you Edison, Fusion, medicine. Y'all sleep sedative. What is the president? We not elected. I mean, they selected it. So I'm going to, refill my drink, and then I'll come kick with you guys. I'm going to play this little video. It's 5 minutes long. I'll cut it off if I get back before that. But it's about light waves visible and invisible. It's just going to really, now I want you to just kind of apply everything that we're talking about. Light's already there. It doesn't have a speed. There's no one-way speed of light. They just use a mirror, and then they get an average, and they reify and presuppose a physical particle traveling to get their average, and blah, 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 right? There's no speed. Light's already there. It's instant. It has a rate of induction, a rate of perception, a rate of illumination, but it's already there. It's kind of like if I had a lake, and then I put a bunch of little neon lights aligned all along the bottom of the lake, and then we're staring at the lake at nighttime. We're like, okay. And then I press the button on the remote, and it lights up purple. Well, the lake was already there. Now it just looks different. It's not even kind of complicated. If I go to the middle of a lake and I wave my arms, I'm not emitting something. I'm disturbing. Sorry if that was loud. I'm disturbing the water that's already there. You can't have a wave. I can wave my hand. I can't hand a wave. If I shake my towel and it waves, or my bed sheet when I'm making my bed and it waves, you have to have the bed sheet. You have to have the towel. If you have a wave of water, you have to have the water. It's just a type of movement. It's what something does, not what something is. It's a verb, not a noun. Reifications of concepts of movement don't mean anything to me. If you quantify and you're like, oh, look, I quantified how quickly I see it, the illumination, how quickly I perceive it, and then what it looks like when it's like the oscillation of the movement. If I quantify them, I call them frequency, I call them this stuff. That's cool, bro. That doesn't mean anything's traveling from point A to point B. You have a rate of induction. Rate means speed. Well, we have to talk to you people that have aphasia, meaning you have the inability to communicate based on the misdefined terms that you've been brainwashed with and indoctrinated with, the inability to speak coherently, to exchange ideas effectively, intellectually, with any type of coherence, because they have misdefined terms and brainwashed you with spells. So now we have to talk to nuance. That's why any type of conversation where you're being funny, muted, and interrupted, there's no way you're going to get the truth out there, because if I say rate of induction, I need to be able to explain the nuance. It's a rate of induction. You could say absorption into the medium, right? But it's not traveling. It's oh, does rate mean speed? Yeah. You can quantify how quickly you see it or how quickly it's illuminated. But it's not traveling as a rate of induction. See, we requires to explain these things because of aphasia. How dare you? So I'm gonna also drop the link if you want to become a member to the chat or to the channel. I just set that up yesterday. I didn't even know that was a thing. It's greatly appreciated if you want to become a member. I'll read off any donations, etc. when I get back. It's $ What's It Gets It on Cash App, paypal.me/intheworld. You can also go to patreon.com/whatsitgetsit, and you can follow that link right there if you want to become a member. There are 5 different levels. Cool. Let's play the video, and then I'm gonna come back and kick it with you guys. If you guys got any questions, you can at me while I'm gone. I'll catch up to them. This is gonna talk about the speed of light. Not the speed of light, but this is going to talk about the non-visible spectrum of light. And just think about the fact that we laid out all the problems with what they say, and then really consider the idea that, dude, there's nowhere you can go. If I turn all the lights off in this room, there's still light there. There's light everywhere. So just understand that it's like what's already there it's a different modality or version of it that becomes perceivable. We call that light. It's really visible light, and how quickly we perceive it or it illuminates because it's already there. You can't conflate that to it physically traveling from point to point. If you claim it's a physical particle, you have to claim it travels from point to point. You can't claim that it's instantaneous. A physical particle can't travel from point to point instantaneously, right? So this has a lot of implications within the claims. Break away from atomism and materialism, because the esoteric Gnostic people, which we covered in grounding, they know that the way that the world really works is simple. It's divinity of simplicity. It's all energy, oscillation, vibration, different versions of the same thing. That there's a metaphysical realm, the primordial, primary state of everything. You can interact with it. It interacts with this physical world. You have intuition, dreams, and memories. They practice spells, not for no reason. They don't let you in their group if you're atheist, because this is a fundamental, basic understanding of the way that the world works. Join the 24/7 Flat Earth Discord 2.0. There is the link for this Discord server. Cheers. Thank you for the $20 super chat, and shout out to 24/7. All right. Let's play the video. I shall return. Don't make it weird. I'll shout out any members that sign up too.
What if you could only see one color? Imagine, for instance, that you could only see things that were red, and that everything else was completely invisible to you. As it turns out, that's how you live your life all the time, because your eyes can only see a minuscule part of the full spectrum of light. Different kinds of light are all around you every day, but are invisible to the human eye. From the radio waves that carry your favorite songs, to the X-rays doctors use to see inside of you, to the microwaves that heat up your food. In order to understand how these can all be light, we'll need to know a thing or two about what light is. Light is electromagnetic radiation that acts like both a wave and a particle. Light waves are kind of like waves on the ocean. There are big waves and small waves, waves that crash on the shore one right after the other, and waves that only roll in every so often. The size of a wave is called its wavelength, and how often it comes by is called its frequency. Imagine being a boat in that ocean, bobbing up and down as the waves go by. If the waves that day have long wavelengths, they'll make you bob only so often, or at a low frequency. If the waves instead have short wavelengths, they'll be close together and you'll bob up and down much more often, at a high frequency. Different kinds of light are all waves. They just have different wavelengths and frequencies. If you know the wavelength or frequency of a wave of light, you can also figure out its energy. Long wavelengths have low energies, while short wavelengths have high energies. It's easy to remember if you think about being in that boat. If you were out sailing on a day with short, choppy waves, you'd probably be pretty high energy yourself, running around to keep things from falling over. But on a long wavelength sea, you'd be rolling along, relaxed, low energy. The energy of light tells us how it will interact with matter, for example, the cells of our eyes. When we see, it's because the energy of light stimulates a receptor in our eye called the retina. Our retina are only sensitive to light with a very small range in energy.
Look at those
And so we
particles
call
hitting
that
that
range
eye.
of light visible light. Inside our retina are special receptors called rods and cones. The rods measure brightness, so we know how much light there is. The cones are in charge of what color of light we see, because different cones are sensitive to different energies of light. Some cones are more excited by light that is long wavelength and low energy, and other cones are more excited by short wavelength, high energy light. When light hits our eye, the relative amount of energy each cone measures signals our brain to perceive colors. The rainbow we perceive is actually visible light in order of its energy. At one side of the rainbow is low energy light, we see as red, and at the other side is high energy light, we see as blue. If light shines on us that has an energy our retina can't measure, we won't be able to see it. Light that is too short wavelength or high energy gets absorbed by the eye's surface before it can even get to the retina, and light that is too long wavelength doesn't have enough energy to stimulate our retina at all. The only thing that makes one kind of light different from another is its wavelength. Radio waves have long wavelengths, while X-rays have
Even though waves aren't things, right? So waves aren't actual things, so don't misapply this. Obviously, you need to always apply wisdom and discernment of what we just talked about, but I just want you guys to really take in that it seems people have overlooked this. I've been talking to people on Discord, and they don't seem to understand that there's a non-visible spectrum. Like they think that light just is the visible spectrum. It blew my mind too. Trust me. If I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know people didn't know there was a non-visible spectrum to light. That goes to show you how effective the indoctrination has been. But anyway,
The only thing that makes one kind of light different from another is its wavelength. Radio waves have long wavelengths, while X-rays have short wavelengths. And visible light, the kind you can actually see, is somewhere in between. Even though our eyes can't detect light outside of the visible range, we can build special detectors that are stimulated by these other wavelengths of light, kind of like digital eyes. With these devices, we can measure the light that is there, even though we can't see it ourselves. So take a step back and think about all of this for a moment. Even though they seem different, the warmth you feel from a crackling fire is the same as the sun shining on you on a beautiful day. The same as ultraviolet light you put on sunscreen to protect yourself from. The same thing as your TV, your radio, and your microwave.
this is something else that Tesla said debunks the speed of light. Think about this. The idea that all light travels at the same speed and it's constant, right? When you light a candle, you just light a little candle, and that light from that candle is allegedly traveling the same speed as the sun. Photon debunked for the 100th time today. Anyway,
Now, those examples are all things here on Earth, things you experience in your everyday life.
that's not the Earth,
But
of
here's
course.
something even more amazing.
Nor is that the
Our
solar
universe
system.
gives off the full spectrum of light, too.
This is important, though. When we look in the sky, we see background radiation. We see it everywhere. Okay. Now, this is obviously not reality. That's right. Wait for it. This is not reality. Just for the listeners at home, this is not. Oh, oh, this is not real. This is not actually real. Obviously. Okay. If you bumped your head, calm down. It's the photon, the FAUX-ton. This is made up. Anyway, the point is that there's a non-visible spectrum everywhere. We're going to continue.
Even more amazing, our universe gives off the full spectrum of light too. When you think of the night sky, you probably think of being able to see the stars shining with your own eyes. But that's just visible light, which you now know is only a tiny part of the full spectrum. If we had to draw the universe and could only use visible light, it'd be like having only one crayon. Pretty sad. To see the universe in its full spectrum, we need to have the right eyes. And that means using special telescopes that can help us see beyond visible light. You've probably heard of the Hubble Space Telescope and seen its beautiful pictures taken in visible and ultraviolet light. But you might not know that there are almost 20 space telescopes in orbit, missions that can each see part of the full spectrum of light. With telescopes acting as our virtual eyes,
None of that is real. Obviously, that's not real. They overlay RGB filters, but there is crazy phenomena going on up above us. There's crazy energy fluctuations. Okay, light's not physical, right? You have to understand that there is something physical in the sense that there is an electric and magnetic oscillating field that intersects. They call that the photon. Photons don't hit your skin. Okay, you're electric, you're electrostatic. We covered that last night in grounding, which is why I tactically covered that first. Because one of the questions that I get is, well, how do we feel light? How do we feel the sun? How do we feel heat? Okay, well, your body's electric. It has a dielectric field, electrostatic field, right? Light's an oscillating magnetic line with an oscillating dielectric field line. Now, again, you have to define field. It's not literal lines, right? It's just sections, spaghetti sections of the field that's already there. Okay, and it interacts with your body. It's really not complicated. It doesn't physically hit you. You're not getting shot with photons. That's ridiculous. All right, we're going to continue.
Both in space and here on Earth, we can see some amazing things. And the coolest thing of all, no matter the wavelength or energy, the light that we see out in the distant universe is the same thing as the light that we can experience and study here on Earth. So since we know the physics of how X-ray, ultraviolet light, or microwaves work here, we can study the light of a distant star or galaxy and know what kinds of things are happening there too. So as you go about your daily life, think beyond what your eyes can and
Oh, did we get taken off of YouTube? Oh, we got taken off YouTube. We're on Rockfin. Hopefully the stream comes back. We're obviously not playing that video anymore. My goodness. Well, shout out to the legends in Rockfin. This is what happens when a mega tsunami hits. Shout out to ᴏᴜᴜ for becoming a new member. No, we clearly just got a strike. Wait a few minutes, it'll come back. Yeah. That's what they did to my Matrix stream. Can you guys not read? It says the educational purposes of this stream are protected under the Fair Use Act. What's up over? We got 26. Oh, we got donations over at Rockfin. I'm missing them. Thank you for the very generous $50 super chat or donation over on Rockfin. Yo, dog, here's a hundo. Listen to my story. I've been using the Wim Hof meditation technique for about 2 years now. Sometimes I will use a gun range earmuffs to help me focus. They have a built-in noise gate that can filter out the gunshots. After about 20 to 30 minutes when huffing, if I turn the noise gate on the speakers and the muffs start buzzing similar to how older cell phones would make speakers buzz. Through the deep, hyperventilating breathing, I'm overcharging my blood with oxygen, which messes with some electrical field. I've also heard radio chatter, probably through my fillings. Anecdotal relating to yesterday. Any thoughts? Thanks, dog. Love your content. Thank you for the very generous $100 tip, bro. Let me get it. Freaking grabblers over at YouTube, fall back. I'm sorry that I'm exposing your nonsense about light. We should come back. I'm sure the numbers will drop down pretty drastically. That's very interesting. I need to think about that. I just played a filler video so I could go to the bathroom. What a joke. I don't know too much about that. It's very interesting. I'll have to look into it, bro. I'll try to remember to come back with my response to it, but I don't know what Wim meditation is. You hear us like buzzing similar to old phones. So the deep hyperventilating breathing, I'm overcharging my blood with oxygen, which messes with some electrical field. You've heard radio chatter, probably through my feelings. That is crazy, bro. That is wild. We're live. We're back on YouTube. We're back on YouTube. What's up, Familia? We back. We only got cut down by like 60, 70 people. What's up, fam? They don't like me breaking down the light deception, I guess, huh? They want you to deify the photon. Again, thank you for the donation on Rockfin. I'll have to look into that. It's very interesting. I almost want to read it again because that's some gravy, bro. I'll read it for YouTube. I've been using the Wim meditation technique for about 2 years now. Sometimes I will use gun range earmuffs to help me focus. They have a built-in noise gate that can filter out the gunshots. After about 20 to 30 minutes wind huffing, if I start to turn the noise gate on the speakers and the muffs start buzzing, similar to how older cell phones would make speakers buzz. Through the deep hyperventilating breathing, I'm overcharging my blood with oxygen, which messes with some electrical field. I've also heard radio chatter, probably through my feelings. Anecdotal relating to yesterday and thoughts. Thanks, dog. Love your content. Again, thank you for the generous donation. And that's crazy, bro. I have to look into that. I don't know, but it does make some sense that our bodies are like, we have an antenna, right? That's what I think praying is. I think that's how you get in tune with the all-powerful creative force. I would say, yeah. You're an antenna. It's like literal signals. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities for me that you've established a resonance or a higher vibration that's allowed you to tap into a different spectrum of the EM, electromagnetic radiation, and then perceive it. It's very interesting. I'll need to look into exactly what that is. Too much red pill. Keep going. The lady was saying light is physical. Yeah, I'm explaining. So let me go over some of the critique that they think really shows that light's a photon. So one thing they'll say is you can feel it. So you can feel light when you go out in the sun. That proves that physical photons are bombarding off of you, I guess, because people are crazy. All right. No. Okay. Again, we talked about how light is electric and magnetic. You have an oscillation of an electric line, field line, right? Magnetic and dielectric. They intersect, right? Like you have two things of spaghetti overlapping, like a coaxial cable, a coaxial circuit. Okay. You just draw a bunch of lines that would be wiggling and intersecting over and over. Now, where that intersects, they call that a photon. But that is not a photon. It's nothing in and of itself. It's an event. It's those things intersecting, right? That's all that it is. Now we talked about how when you have these two things, and that's how you have electricity. Well, can you find light without electricity? Good luck. All light comes from something electric. Bioluminescence, photoluminescence, you name it. So whenever you're feeling the interaction, your body is electric. You are electrostatic. You have an electrostatic field, right? So this is interacting with your electrostatic field, similar to how whenever you take your shoes off, you have nerve endings in your feet. They say you get flooded with electrons, but no. Actually, what you're doing is you're just filling your body. You're like increasing the resonance of your body, right? You're changing your electrostatic field that your body is comprised of. Whenever you have light and you can physically feel it, it's because that there's an electric reaction, right? And then that energy gives us the byproduct of what we call heat, which is a byproduct of pressure mediation. So the electric reaction between your body and the light mediates pressure, right? And you're going to feel heat. Okay, but you're not feeling physical photons getting shot at you. That's ridiculous, right? Okay, so that one's debunked. The second one that they always say that debunks that lights or that proves that light's a photon is they say, how does a laser distance finder work? So, there's something, I have one somewhere. I use them for observations to get my observer height. So you have something called a distance laser finder, and you can shoot a laser and it'll tell you how far away whatever you shoot the laser is, how far away it is, right? So if I shoot at this wall right here, it'll say 7 feet. Okay, and they're like, well, the light goes and comes back. That's how you know how far it is. Truth is, that thing is calibrated with what's called the speed of light, which is actually a rate of induction. And that's very consistent. The rate of induction is very consistent. Okay. And again, the way they got this rate of induction was they got a two-way with a mirror. Okay. So we know how quickly we'll perceive it with a mirror, right? We know what this rate of induction is, the rate of perception or illumination of induction. The distance finder is calibrated with that rate, right? So it's going to be able to tell you how far away something is, and it's going to be extremely accurate because the fluctuations within what people call the speed of light are so small. Now go shoot that laser finder at water, see what happens. See how good it finds distances through water. Okay? So the point is that you're actually, because you've added a much more dense medium, it's going to slightly affect it. Now, when we're talking about, oh, this is 7 feet away, well, that slight fluctuation isn't going to mean much. The point is, there's not a physical photon traveling and bouncing back to you. You sound like a crazy person when you say that. That's not actually what happens. Okay? What happens is that it was calibrated with a rate of induction, a rate of perception, a rate of illumination that's consistent. Therefore, we know exactly how far something would be based on that rate. So whenever it reverberates, you get a certain oscillation pattern that runs through an electronic circuit with a slight delay, and then you understand how far away something is. Doesn't prove that anything's traveling from point A to point B. Same exact explanation for how does radar work, right? How can we do trilateration, or how can we send radio waves, right? We send radio waves. We know that there is a rate of induction, and all of this equipment is calibrated with that. It's that simple. It's not complicated. So there is nothing you can bring up that's going to prove the photon. You talk about the photoelectric effect. That doesn't prove the photon. In fact, that debunks the photon because it doesn't happen with all the amorphous metals, semiconductors or conductors. It should happen with all of them. It doesn't. That debunks that it's a photon. It's not a physical particle traveling from point A to point B. They claim that proves the photon. I just now explained they did that because of a misinterpretation of wave. They assume waves move from point A to point B as well because they're ignorant, and the truth is the medium was already there. I explained, right? I explained that they're wrong with the intensity relationship, and that the intensity and the current relationship actually would naturally fall out. Even within the quantum paradigm of itself, it's been misrepresented in the mainstream. And then that doesn't prove anything. And then you would actually get an electron dot pattern. Now, the truth is that, of course, it's not an electron. It's just the terminal end of one unit line of dielectric induction, a gap in a dielectric field. So pressure mediates based on energy. So if like the electron would be in between my hands right here, and you have these gaps everywhere, okay? They isolate that area. You can isolate the areas. You can quantify the areas. You can call them whenever you want to. You can make up stories about how we can guess the rest mass, even though it's never still, and it's matter, even though it has no volume or size, and we can't prove it's matter except for looking at the charge. Assuming that it's matter, then get a mass to charge ratio by reifying our conceptual quantification method called mass. You can do all kinds of pseudoscientific mental gymnastics to come back to this. The truth is that it's just a terminal end of one unit line of dielectric conduction or a gap in a dielectric field. Okay, but that mediates pressure. That's energy. And energy mediates pressure. In fact, I would define energy as pressure mediation because the mainstream can't even define energy. It says it's the ability or capacity to do work. Well, that's what something does, not what something is. I would define it as pressure mediation. Not everyone's ready for this much gravy, but I would say it actually, a proper definition, proper defining of energy would involve the word intelligence. But like I said, I know not everyone's ready for that. Intelligence of some sorts, like sentience, control, will, conscious decision. Now I know that may be too much for people, so we're going to stick with pressure mediation for now. Okay? So anyway, so that's what it is whenever you see this little plate that I showed you. Well, it's just gaps in the dielectric field. It's mediating the pressure. You can isolate that area, those gaps in the field, like you cut spaghetti, right? And we call that the electron. That's going to give you a dot pattern based on all the pressure being mediated. There's going to be an electronic reaction, right? So you have the electrostatic nature of the plate or the metal plate in the photoelectric effect, right? Same thing. What do you think they're doing in the double slit? That's why they have to reify the electron and make any claims about the photon, but they don't understand that. They are way behind. I'm saying, like FED, for example, like way behind, like toddler behind, like not even close to the debate. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm just being objective. That's an objective recollection. They're not even close. You have to reify the electron to claim that's a physical particle hitting the plate. But anyway, so it gives you a pattern, electron dots, right? So there's a dispersion within the electron field. Now we know, again, that's just more than electrostatic or dielectric field. There's no such thing as an electron. There's such thing as physical matter that doesn't have a volume or size and all this nonsense. Now Tesla would tell you that that's what he would call like an ether corpuscle, so a primary state of substance or matter. And it's much bigger than what they would say. The electron's much bigger than what they would say. And it's just a primordial state, primary state, initial state of the matter. So I hope that makes sense. And those are home runs. Parametric down conversion. Oh, we can put a crystal here in front of light, and then we can assume it's made of photons, and it splits the photons up. Are you kidding me right now? Are you freaking kidding me? So, anyway, I hope that hope I'm putting some pieces together for you guys. Shout out to everybody that signed up as a member. Hopefully some more of you guys will. That'll kind of create this little safety net of like some consistent stuff. Like I was hoping to get a few hundred people sign up so we could have a little something. I mean, they take 70%, but that and Patreon would really help. And of course, donations. But I felt led to do this. I feel like it's what I'm supposed to be doing. Putting in a lot of work behind the scenes. I'm trying to make videos. I don't have a video editing software. I don't know exactly which one to get. I feel like video editing softwares are expensive, so I don't know which one to get or when I will get one, but I've been trying to use this thing called Canva to make them. So to make a little intro for the debate show and stuff like that. So I've been working on that. It takes a lot of time, especially with that app and not a real video editing software. So that's kind of what I'm doing. But anyway, long story short, support what you like or it goes away. You feel what I'm saying? I love this channel. I swear. So glad I found it. I'm glad you're here, bro. I'm glad you enjoy it. How do cameras work? It's the same way. It's the same way. They use the reification of the electron. So it's a gap in a dielectric field. Replace electron with gap in dielectric field. Replace photon with the intersection of the oscillating magnetic and dielectric lines of a field. And then you have all your answers. Now there aren't literal lines. They're just like area, if you will, just like a certain section that is moving, vibrating, oscillating. There aren't literal lines somewhere. And we have to define a field, which I would say is autonomous exchange of energy. And if you look it up, the mainstream cannot define field, but there you go. So we've got photographs wrong. Maybe you should listen. Maybe if you listen, then you'll understand. I told you I'll sign up right now if you debunk these viral globe Earth videos on stream. That would take so long though, bro. That's 2 hours. I'm already 2 hours in. I mean, charge rolling in. Yeah, of course. It's weird that they're so obsessed with like the stupid, crazy flat earther. I'll do a stream where I debunk them though, bro. There's no way I can right now. We're 2 hours in. I'm kind of tired. It's 1 a.m. here. But yeah, I do plan on kind of doing that, like Professor Clown Show and all that. Easily debunk them. If Professor Phil had dropped his link, I would have pulled it up and debunked it. What you'll find is some people are really about it. Other people are just all front, all talk. That's what it is. They aren't viral. They're just promoted. Yeah, of course. Of course they are. I meant not tonight, but eventually, of course. Yeah. I got you, bro. I will. I actually kind of plan on doing that. Like I said, I'm going to release the show soon. We are leaving Monday for a couple days. We have to go on a trip. Shotcut is free video editing software. I haven't used it, but I've heard good things. All right, if it's actually good, I might do that. I want to make sure I get a good video. I want to make like, really good quality. I guess it seems like, well, at least the first intro that's going to be for one of the shows is just going to be, I made it on Canva. So it's just going to be okay. I mean, that clone video I made was made on Canva, so you can see you can do something with it. You can't do a lot with it. Hope you were well shot, Roger. What's up, brother? Equalization, make even, balance, match, establish equilibrium, make equal, bring to a common level, equate, even up, square, and adjust. Okay. Yeah, I would say everything is in the state of seeking equilibrium, and then the purest state of homeostasis or equilibrium is the non-manifest background medium at rest, is pure potential. Everything's trying to get back there. So that's how I see it. But anyway, all right, I think I might wrap this up. I think I haven't got any donations during the stream, but I think I got one today. Sundial Seed. So good, bro. This ether work you on is great. Great work, great research. Glad you found heart math. I found that stuff along with plant spirit medicine about 17 years ago now. This journey is amazing. Carry on, bro. Thank you. That's awesome, bro. That's cool that you found it that long ago. What a legend. Thank you for the generous donation on PayPal. Thank you for the kind words and support. It is people that donate that make this possible, so I appreciate it. Do you make any art? I don't physically draw or anything. No, I had a bad experience with art. I used to kind of like be like rebellious in school, but I was in art class one time and they wanted to make a monochromatic picture. Like, so you take one color and you make different shades of it. So I decided to actually try, and I painted this Jimi Hendrix that was so dope, dude. Jimi Hendrix playing the guitar was so freaking dope. And she just took it, bro, and wouldn't let me have it. I'm like, bro, screw this, bro. Ethan, thank you for the $10 super chat. Keep crushing, never stop. All right, duly noted. If it's possible, if it's financially possible, I'll plan on I'm doing this full time and doing it constantly nonstop. So that is the plan. And thank you for the super chat and the support, brother. And again, I don't want to like overly do it or like be all like promo, sell it up and stuff, but consider becoming a member. There are different perks, and so what we're gonna do is we're gonna like hang out. So like we'll have certain things that'll be like member chat only. I don't want to overdo that because I want people to come in here like the streams. That's what makes it such a genuine, pure vibe. Everything is free. Even on Rockfin, I'll leave it for free. Instead of trying to make money off of everything like a Graveler, I'll try to leave some stuff on for free. Like when I live stream, I like to be able to talk for free, but I will eventually at one point make a members chat only on occasion, like a certain stream that's members chat only or whatever. Like I said, I will be creating a Telegram chat as well. So even when we do members chat, you could always be in the Telegram. I'll try to constantly interact. I'll try to stay interacting with Rockfin. I'm still getting everything worked out. And I'm gonna get OBS finished set up, so hopefully we can get overlays. And then whenever you donate with Cash App or you donate with PayPal, I'm hoping that I can set it up to where that pops up on the screen, or I can show it on the screen so that as opposed to giving the Gravelers 30% of everything, you guys can still get popped up on the screen when you donate. So yeah, the content's going to continue to evolve and continue to progress. It's going to be cool. So turn around in a month, I think we may be looking real profesh, if you know what I'm saying. I think that's about it. So tomorrow night, as of now, I'm considering debating Brian's logic or whatever from FED about the ether. He wants to come on and have a discussion about it on my channel. I think I may do that. Just kind of, I know that it'll be on my channel. There will obviously be no funny muting, interrupting, ad hom, straw mans, or anything like that. And I think that will actually be a great thing. It's going to really elucidate that they just don't know what they're talking about, and they had to interrupt me to make their point. So we might be doing that. There might be a little conversation back and forth about the ether. I don't like to censor opposing ideas or anything like that. So that might be coming up tomorrow night on the channel. And then Friday night, we will be doing a debate. Karen B and I will be debating a couple Globe Earthers on modern day debate. So be sure and check that out. If I'm not too tired, I may do an after show after the debate on modern day debate and kick it with you guys. A little after show about the debate. And then Saturday night, I have a debate about did the Messiah already come and has the millennial reign already happened against Infinity Split to 56, I think. I don't remember the number. I always forget the number, but and that is on Vader Bear's channel, which I showed last night. So cool. I think it's called Enclosed Earth Cosmology. I just don't want to misspeak, but so we already got a lot of stuff. That's like 3 back-to-back debates. Professor Dave should be lining up here soon. A lot of people are trying to get me to go on the Crucible show, which is a debate show. He doesn't like to host Flat Earth. So anyone knows him, wants to reach out to him, say, have what's it on. I think I may do a geocentrism debate on there, though, to meet him halfway. So there's that. And then I know James was reaching out to me about doing a different debate before Karen B was wanting to. They're also wanting Kai and I to do another debate. Now, I don't know for sure if she wants to. She said she was down. So Kai and I may be doing a debate soon, as well as I against with geocentrism. So we got right there's like 7 debates that are coming pretty soon. A lot of people have been asking me to do debates. They're kind of draining, especially when people are really dishonest. But I'm gonna try to have your guys' back, so I plan on doing it. So there's a little bit of a recap and let you guys know what's going on. Like I said, lots of content coming. I wanted to kind of briefly touch on the photon, or better yet, the photon with the FAUX. Photon. Let me take this off. All right, so thank you guys for kicking it. It's been a cool show. Hopefully you guys learned something or thought it was cool. Crucible toes the line, but I'll leave that alone. I'm not sure what that means, but yeah, like I just have lots of people asking me to do lots of stuff. I don't know. If you want to contact me, you can email me at wits@protonmail.com. Something else I'm about to start doing is I'm about to start scheduling guests to come on here at least once a week, maybe twice a week. Like try to get some really dope guests. I'm sure that we'll kind of have to get the channel rocking out before maybe some like much bigger names come on. Try to pull some of my connects to try to get on some bigger shows. I'll always keep you guys updated on the chat, on the channel, as to where I'll be doing it. So I'm gonna kinda do what Dave Weiss does. I'm gonna install this green screen that I can pull down so I can go to different radio shows or different type of podcasts or different YouTube streams and stuff and kind of, represent flat earth and geocentrism and different, truth subjects. So that's cool. We should be having that coming. So I'll be kinda doing what Dave does, making his laps on different channels. And of course, then I do plan on having 5 shows a week at least, maybe 6. Um, and they're different types of show, like a flat earth debate show where we cover certain types of pseudoscience, like relativity in another show, a gravy show, a guest show. So yeah, we got a lot going on, man. Thanks what's it get a PO box. Thanks for reminding me. I do want to get a PO box set up, so I may actually try to work that in tomorrow. That's why I don't want to stay up too late because I got to get up early. Go out there and let the chickens out. Then I gotta finish going through all the stuff that I have in the shed, and then I want to pressure wash our our house and outside. We really had to put a lot of work in it to kinda get it looking good. And, I also wanna finish making that video for the intro, and I want to get maybe another stream together. Like I said, we'll be having that, tentatively, we're having the debate with Brian about the ether tomorrow, which is FED member. So there's that. Cool. A lot of people are also asking me to, release a book list. So I think I'm probably gonna create a website where we can have all this, right? So you go to the website and you can find the links to everything. So I'm gonna start streaming on Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute, and Rockfin and YouTube and Twitch. So I'm gonna go to try to create a website. I've been paying for that freaking Masquerade Tour website this whole time, so I gotta get that out of here, create another website. So that's gonna take a little bit of time. I'm trying to do everything. I really am. Um, So yeah, try to create a website where you guys can find the Telegram chat link, all the different if you want to support the channel the different ways. You got $ what's it gets it on Cash App. You got paypal.me/inaworld on PayPal. You got patreon.com/what's it gets it. You can become a member on YouTube. And of course you got super chats and rocking. You also can do Zelle, which is witsit@protonmail.com. Is my contact on Zelle. Anyway, so you'll be able to just go to the website. You'll have all that contact if you want to do that. We'll make it to where I'm using OBS, so anytime you support the channel, it'll pop up on the screen, and we'll just integrate all the super chats. So then where they take most of the money doesn't have like some type of advantage other than being in the literal physical chat on YouTube. We'll have member only chat. If you become a member, there's going to be certain like members only live streams. There's going to be certain type of members only videos or sneak peeks to music that we make and stuff like that. Patrons will also be getting advantages such as hearing our music before we drop it, seeing videos before we do it, seeing a music video before we release it. So we got lots of stuff going on. And it should be cool. And I will be doing a chill stream with all the people that helped me get the computer, where it'll just be us kicking it if you donated whatever the promise was. I think it's over 50. And then I'll be shouting everyone out that did over 30. And I will be finishing getting all the thank you emails sent out. And so there you go. We got all that going. Did you watch Jim Bob's debate on evolution? I have not. I would like to kick it with him, have him come on here, or me go on his show or something. Everyone keeps asking me to. All right, cool. There you go. That's kind of where we're at right now. A lot going on. But anyway, thank you guys for kicking it. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. Smart people don't care what ignorant people think. Informed people don't care what ignorant people think. More so, strong people don't care what weak people think. Informed people don't care what ignorant people think. Right? Intelligent people don't care what dumb people think. And strong people don't care what weak people think. I probably said a few of them a few times, but I hope it really sinks in. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. That means no matter what people say. Right? It seems like a pretty simple concept. I don't see me ever changing that outro because that's what I believe in. And the fact is that in today's world, when you speak the truth, you're going to get attacked. So, like I said, if you want to support the channel about becoming a member, that would be epic. I'll shout you guys out later. Seek and speak truth unequivocally. The weak find contentment in the consensus of ignorance. So again, don't conform to what other people say. And in fact, when you're doing something right, you're going to get attacked. And that's how you know that you're doing something right, because that's happened forever. And usually the truth is never popular, and what's popular is never the truth. So just rejoice when you get reviled for his name's sake, and that's synonymous with the truth, because the creator, the intrinsic intelligent design that has placed in this immense amount of order that is inevitable and undeniable, right? That is truth. What is truth? It would be the encompassing personification of truth. And so whenever you get reviled for speaking the truth and standing up for it, or his name's sake, which I would say, Yah, hallelujah, right? Whenever you get reviled for his name's sake, rejoice, for they did it to all the prophets before you. So never be intimidated. Understand that means you're doing something right. I'm going to catch up with you guys later. Until next time, peace.
That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they simple pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up, had to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we in the field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Took the way you saw the world, then distorted it. Now you think you wanna rock it, twirl somewhere orbiting. The theory's disproportionate, the truth distorted quick. With a forceful grip, they force a misinfo that we absorbing quick. Took the people's signature to mean extorted it. They forging it, if news anchors informants who informing them. There's a surplus, but they tell us there are shortages. Credit economy mortgages, dollar that's supported with empty fortresses. But what's important is this, we porting ships, important gifts, of course it is. What extortion is in accordance with an assortment list of foreign tricks, we ignoring which informing this, informing this. It looked like we were snoring tricked. Pedophilia and the government endorsing it. Yeah, eugenics is exactly what abortion is. You just vilify those insubordinate. Way to matrix engineer, that's unfortunate. Geopolitically, we in a field. That's for Israel. Wonder, is it real? Rappers acting say they high, say they simple pills. Glorify suicide so they get the deals. Big pharma set it up just to flip the pills. Control the music industry until the scripts get filled. Geopolitically, yeah, we